and that is trouble for Tesla. The automaker announcing it is cutting 7% of its workforce. It is expecting a lower fourth quarter profit. They pre-announced last night. The company also saying that it is part of an effort to lower the price of the Model 3. The stock is down 6.25% right now ahead of the open. Joining us right now is Synovus Trust Portfolio Manager Dan Morgan. Dan, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Maria. How are you? Happy New Year.
And to you, Happy New Year. Do you own Tesla?
We don't own Tesla. No, I'm sorry, we don't. That's not
what's your take on this situation?
I follow the tech sector. I'm sorry?
What's your take on this situation? I mean, Tesla obviously has been a high flyer, and now we're seeing the stock under some pressure. Is there something going on within technology? Is this a specific Tesla issue? What's your reaction to this?
Well, I think Tesla is a company that trades, as you know, Maria, at a very high multiple. I know they just announced that they're having some cutbacks in terms of number of employees. But, you know, going forward, I mean, it's a company that, you know, there's a lot of risk in terms of, you know, whether their model is going to perform or not. I mean, up to the last quarter I saw they were not profitable. They have yet to be profitable. So I think going forward, I think that's going to be the big milestone for them to achieve. And it's obviously a newer technology and so forth.
What about the broader market at this point? I mean, obviously firmness. We've seen a pretty good performance since Christmas, actually. Would you be buying stocks here?
The market has moved up in the last, trading days, which is very positive. But, you know, there are still things out there that I have some concerns about. Obviously, the Fed, a lot of things that you've detailed on your show in terms of the market as a whole. I think investors can kind of pick their spaces, but if you're going into this year, it's going to be hard to build a really strong case that the markets are going to be going up like they were at this time last year, just because we had so many things in the recipe, strong earnings growth, good interest rate picture and so forth, and now you got tariffs and interest rates continue to go up and so forth. So it makes it a little bit more challenging.
Dan, a big part of the picture last year leading the market higher was the tech stocks and the FANGs in particular. They also led the market lower at the end of the year. Are we out of the woods yet with that group of stocks? I know Netflix reported earnings last night. It was a pretty decent report. The reaction is a little bit mixed because of the outlook. Do you think that we can get involved in some of these FANG names again?
Well, FANG is interesting because, like, if we're having this conversation a year ago, pretty much all the FANG stocks did well. But now I think you have to be a little bit more discerning on which groups within FANG you would expect to perform well. I think Amazon should do well with AWS. You look at Microsoft with their Azure and their intelligent cloud. So those are two stocks that I would expect to do well going into the new year. I still think you're going to have a black cloud over like a Facebook in regards to scrutiny over what's going on with their security, and we had a recent breach that came out before the holidays. Apple trades at a very low multiple. They're interesting, even though they came in with a cut a couple weeks ago in terms of revenue. So again, I think you just can't go and say all the FANG stocks are going to be good. I think you have to kind of pick and choose your stocks within the group and go from there. And there's some names that probably aren't going to do as well as they've done in the past.
Technology overall, I mean, they were really under pressure in 2018. Do you want to put new money to work within tech, and specifically in tech? Do you like the social media area or semiconductors? Where specifically do you see growth right now?
Well, you're right, Maria. You know, these different areas. Semiconductors has been very difficult. We mentioned social media with the black cloud over scrutiny. One area that I'm really excited about is the cloud space. If you think about infrastructure as a service with AWS and Azure, which is Amazon and Microsoft. And you also think about sales as a service with companies like Salesforce, HCM, which is human capital management software with a company like Workday. So I think you have to be very focused. The overall tech sector isn't dead yet. It's not like it was back in 2000, but we're still obviously have some positive things. But you have to be very particular on the areas that you focus on. And I think cloud is still an area of strength that people can look at going into the new year.
Isn't the other big question with these social media platforms specifically, what will government do? I mean, there's all talk of some kind of antitrust activity or new regulations on privacy.
Exactly. And, you know, the House going Democrat, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of committees. They're going to bring in the CEOs of Facebook and Google and Snap and all these different companies to testify. And they're going to be trying to pass some sort of legislation or advance something up to the
I
Senate.
don't know about that. Aren't they all donors? Aren't they all donors?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Well,
Just because the Democrats are in control,
but
they're going to bring these guys down. I actually would say the opposite.
Well, the Republicans tend to be a little more laissez-faire when it comes to business and let things go the way they go.
Well, it was Kevin McCarthy.
It
was Kevin McCarthy, then the majority leader, who actually got the ball rolling and made sure that Google CEO, Facebook CEO, they all went down and testified in front of Congress. So that happened last year, and that was the Republicans.
I'm not going to argue with you, Maria.
No, I'm not arguing at all. I'm just trying to understand what you're expecting in terms of legislation.
Well, I would think the Democrats would be a little bit more anti-business than the Republicans, and I think they'd be a little bit more looking to scrutinize some of these companies like the ones that we're talking about in terms of social media companies. So we didn't see anything advance through the House or the Congress and get approved last year, and we had a lot of testimony. So I don't know if it's just fanfare, if it's something they're doing to try to make people feel good, but I don't think anything's going to get passed, but I think they will be in the limelight and they will be in the paper.
My point was that these guys are donors.
They might cash the check and then regulate
both sides, by the way.
I agree with you 100%, Maria Bartiromo. They're never going to go after these tech companies in a serious way because these are the social justice warriors in terms of businesses, and they're the biggest donors to the Democrats.
And Republicans, too. I mean, you know, Google is a big donor on both sides. A lot of people feel like Europe has been ahead of the U.S. in terms of the privacy legislation.
I think this is a huge political issue. In your own life, do these companies own every aspect of it, or do you own it? And I think that has to get defined.
Yeah. All right, we will leave it there. Dan, thanks very much for weighing in this morning.
Thank
Good
you,
to
Maria.
see you. Dan Morgan.